Hello guys, I'm about to recreate the erosion experiment that we did last week. If you'll recall, we talked about how wind, rain, freezing, heat, and chemicals all help to break down rock and turn mountains into sand, literally. One thing to consider is that water and gravity also help this process. For us, we think about topsoil and how that's important for farmers, so we don't want it to get washed away, but it is part of the process. So if you look at our apparatus, we have unprotected soil on the right and soil that has grass and Japanese knotweed growing in it on the left. So you can just picture the roots going down and holding onto the soil. So now we're going to turn on the water and see just what happens when water and gravity work together to break down the land. Okay, now we've got our simulated rain. Imagine that up in the mountains or on a hillside. Now it's raining just as hard on the grass side as it is on the soil side. But while we see movement on the soil side, we don't see any on the plant side. And I'd like you guys to look at the world as you move around. Say you're driving on the highway and you see a hillside at about this angle. Sometimes you'll see an unprotected one with deep gullies. Other times you'll see where they purposely planted grass or other plants to keep it from happening. A big factor in this is the steep angle of the hill. The faster water moves, the more material it can carry. See that? It's just collapsing. And if you think of this on a grander scale, you can think of the Grand Canyon, where the Colorado River, over millions of years, ate a gully more than a mile deep, just by fast-moving water picking up the material and moving it out. Now, as we said, fast-moving water carries a lot of material. Well, what happens when the water slows down? Once it gets down here, the water's no longer moving fast, so it almost immediately drops the material that it was carrying. If you look at a map and you look at Egypt or Louisiana, you can actually see this covering hundreds of square miles. It's called a delta. And where the Mississippi River hits the Gulf of Mexico, or where the Nile hits the Mediterranean, you have a huge delta formed from those rivers slowing down once they hit the sea. So a final look how deep these gullies are getting. And it's eating right down to the bedrock. You'll see stones too big to move, but it's washing away all the soil in between. And if we look at the plant side, I don't see any movement of the soil because it's held onto so firmly by the roots of the plants. So, your assignment is to look at the world as you're moving around and look for signs of erosion and how it could be prevented. We'll talk about this in class soon.